Hey guys, this is John. I'm playing Snap, Crackle, Pop in the 15-minute pool on ICC. Let's play Scandinavian. I'm playing more of my mainline openings, my kind of first tier lines that I might play in a tournament because I am ready to play a tournament myself, or getting ready. In a few days, I'll be playing a 9-round event in Dallas, Texas. Starts on November 20th. So let's play a Qd8 Scandi. This player has a lot of 15-minute games played, almost 3,200 15-minute rating games, and they're at their peak rating, 2185. I'll play knight f6, the main move. Usually I see knight f3 in this position, after which I'll play bishop g4. I haven't played a lot of Scandinavians in the 15-minute pool of late. You have seen me play plenty in Blitz and Bullet, but in the 15-minute pool I tend to play around a bit more because I have longer periods of time to think, and if I play an unfamiliar opening, I can spend a couple minutes getting my bearings, which is total suicide in like the 5-minute pool, for instance. So white plays h3, I will grab the bishop pair, and then I'll play c6 so that b7 is not hanging. Now white usually plays bishop e3, defending the d-pawn. Greg Shahade played queen d3 against me in our match the other day, which is a move that Magnus Carlsen also played when faced with this line. So bishop e3, I play e6. And here white usually plays castles, as SnapCracklePop just did, or bishop to d3 is a popular move as well. So I'll play bishop b4, attacking the knight. And since black is threatening to double up white's pawns by capturing on c3, usually white will move this knight now. And knight e4 is the main move. So knight back to b1. A passive-looking move, but I guess white is arguing that my bishop isn't doing much on b4 and that they may play c3 and kick it away soon. So I could just play something like knight bd7, but I could also play queen d5. Queen d5 would be a natural move to attack the queen on f3 and also hit the pawn on a2. You see this a lot in Caro-Kann positions, in fact. And here's some Scandi crossover. So on queen d5, what happens if queen g3, though? Because that's one move that you always have to reckon with. Queen g3 attacking the pawn on g7. a2 is hanging, but I can't rightly capture it because queen takes g7 would attack the rook and also the knight. So I would totally play queen d5 if not for this queen g3 move. So I'm going to spend a minute just thinking what my strategy would be if that were to occur on the board. So if queen d5, queen g3, let's say I castle. Bishop h6 is not dangerous, I don't think, because of knight h5. Pawn c4 might be a move I'd be a little afraid of. Queen h5 in that case. I suspect black has resources against queen g3. Maybe even queen d5, queen g3, just g6 if necessary. I'm going to give it a shot. Let's do it. And white instantly plays a3. So Snap, Crackle, and Pop is playing automatic moves, but they're letting me take here and double up their pawns, which I don't think should be good for them, so I'll just do it. And here I can put the bishop on e7 or d6. d6 appears better, but the bishop can be slightly exposed on that square. So I think I'm actually going to play bishop e7. One reason is that after like bishop to d6, they can play c4 and maybe try for c5 later. So I think it's a bit safer on e7. So now they're hitting my pawn on g7. I'll probably just play g6 against this one. Almost looked like he pre-moved rook g1. And bishop h6, there you go again. Another quick decision. I'll just develop knight bd7. White is stopping me from castling short, but I don't really intend to castle short anyways, so that's fine by me. So knight c3, the knight is back in the action. I could play bishop f8 if I wanted to try to seek a trade of the bishops. I could just castle long. That's the first move that popped into my mind. So if I castle long, what if they play knight e4, trying to go knight g5 and attack the pawn on f7? Is that anything I have to be concerned about? Maybe bishop f8 is a decent way to play a potentially constructive move while also still giving myself the option of castling long next move. Or for that matter, could I castle long knight e4 and then bishop f8? Although bishop g5 looks annoying there. So castle knight e4. Just that knight coming into g5 and bothering me on the f7 pawn is the one thing I don't like about that continuation. I feel like if I play bishop f8, there's a reasonable chance he'll just take it. He'll just snap off the bishop without thinking twice. But I don't want to play an inferior move just because I expect my opponent to respond in a rash way. Bishop f8, bishop g5. Could even play bishop e7 and then castle short if I wanted to there. Let's try it. So this looks like an undeveloping move, but bear in mind, with the queens off the board, the tempo of the game is going to change a bit. It's no longer going to be a fast-paced game, and the king safety has increased for both sides. There's not going to be like an outright attack on the respective kings, most likely. So white dropped the bishop all the way back to d2. Sort of an odd-looking move. So if I castle, knight e4 could still be played. But it doesn't have the same punch as it did when the bishop was sitting on h6. So let's just castle. King b1, an inoffensive move, but maybe not doing a whole lot. So white has all these pawn targets, so eventually I want to start taking those under observation. Exchanges should favor me, so I may be looking to swap some minor pieces. There's not a direct clash of minor pieces at the moment, though, so it's going to be a little tough. Looking at knight b6, attacking d4. I'm looking at bringing my bishop out again. Most likely I will move the bishop. I'm looking at h5, trying to go bishop h6 and trade the dark square bishops, but h5 can be met by knight e4. That's what I don't quite like about it. Bishop g7 might eventually attack this pawn. Bishop g7 is a way to stop knight e4, because then I can trade knights and then take the pawn on d4. Although then they have bishop g5. I'd have to calculate how that would turn out. So bishop g7, knight e4, knight takes e4, f takes e4, bishop takes d4, bishop g5. Because then my rook is under attack and so is that bishop. And if bishop f6, there's rook takes d7. That doesn't turn out so well for me. Bishop e7 looks totally fine. Let's go bishop e7. So I'm going to bring the bishop back out. I think I accomplished my goal with bishop f8 and forcing white's bishop to retreat to d2. So this should be fine. On knight e4, I might play h6. That's a move I was considering to stop knight g5. My rook would have to stay guarding the pawn thereafter, but that could be okay. I don't want to take on e4 and allow their pawn structure to straighten out after f takes e4. Like taking and then playing knight f6 is kind of tempting because there's a double attack on these pawns, but they have e5 then. So let's just play patiently. h6. I might move this knight too. I might play like knight h5. Bishop f4. Okay, so they're threatening knight to d6 with this move. So once again, if I take e4, they take, I play, say, knight f6. I'm hitting this pawn, but now even their d pawn is protected, so that's not so great. I could play knight b6 here, but then they have bishop e5, don't they? Maybe I misplayed it slightly. Because knight d6 is an annoying move. Yeah, I think I misplayed it a little bit. There might have been a better way to do this. Don't think the position is bad for me or anything yet, but could be better. So if knight b6, then I mean, even c4 is not exactly what I'm looking for. Maybe knight h5? Knight h5, if knight d6 check, take, take. 2 knights versus 2 bishops then. Let's give that a shot. There's also bishop d6, but I think I can deal with bishop d6 by playing rook he8. I don't want to use too much more time. Bishop back to h2, immediately played. Probably knight f6 now. Knight b6 is also possible. But let's go here, which guards the d6 square. So my knights are strangely placed on this side of the board. I'd really like a trade of dark square bishops. Bishop into e5. I can just move my rook away against that move. Like rook he8. Knight takes e4. Nah, let's just play rook he8. c3, solid. So maybe knight d5 now, looking to get into f4. I still don't really want to take on e4. I'm not thrilled about that prospect. But now I can play this move. And d6 is covered. Unfortunately, my time is pretty low, so I'm going to have to start making moves fast. f5 maybe, or just knight f4. Knight f4 looks pretty good. Let's do that. So attack h3. Maybe f5 to come. f5 followed by g5, something like that. I'm restricting this bishop because if that bishop moves, they would lose h3. h4, so daring us to take. But if I take, I allow knight d6. And I'd have to give up the exchange. Although, I think I see a line where that's not so bad. But now I don't think I have to resort to that. Maybe I should just play f5 right now. Or rook g8 and then f5. Let's go rook g8. This pawn is going to be weak, so I think we can leave it there for now. h4 seems ill-conceived. I hope I can try to punish that move. Bishop c4, just developing. So f5, what's up with f5? Or maybe b5 first. Or even king d7. King d7 is kind of a good way to defend some weak squares, like d6. Maybe b6 first. And then king d7. Let's do that. So I'm trying to rule out knight c5 with this b6 move. Okay, this move appears to allow f5, but I have to calculate that. f5, rook takes f4, knight takes, bishop takes, take here. They take e6. That's complicated. I don't know if that actually works for me, so I'm just going to drop this knight back. I'll play knight d5. I don't want to spend too much more time calculating that. But here I'm still threatening f5, and I'm blocking their light square bishop.
Check.
And I'm threatening bishop to takes h4. So if ever that rook moves. Yeah, they're probably just going to try to blitz me now. Let's attack that bishop. Try to get that dark square bishop. Really like that piece off the board. Ooh, that's not a move I saw. Does that work for them? Actually, it might. Okay, I guess I have to take now. So they're going to take with check.
Check.
So king e8, rook takes d8, I have bishop takes d8, so they won't do that. So king e8, bishop takes c7, take d1, take on c5. Can also play knight d5 here, but I think I'm going to go here. Weird game, white just making instant decisions. Still even material. And they still have some weaknesses, although the position is kind of clarified a little bit. It's hard to say who's going to come out ahead. Okay, let's play f5. I still want to go after this h-pawn. So let's do this, go after that point. I have to be wary of them playing like rook d1 or maybe going after my c-pawn. Okay, king f7, I'm thinking against that move, or maybe c5. There's also king d7. Okay, let's go here. So if bishop takes, I have rook c8. They're being very annoying with some of these moves, and just the overall speed of play. All right, let's kick away that rook first and foremost. So just attack it. I'm going to bring my knight back to h5 next move, and attack h4. Let's offer a repetition once and see what they do. I don't know, playing on would be pretty risky given my time after rook d7. They're going to play on, okay. So if I take, they're going to go rook d7, bishop back, and then bishop d6, something along those lines. Okay, let's do this. This is kind of weird looking, but I'll try it. Okay, let's go a4. And if ever bishop c6 is played, I do have that rook c8 move, which is nice. That dark square bishop's causing me a lot of grief, though. Oh, what to do? So take rook d7, bishop back to e7, bishop d6. I don't know. All right, I'm going to try to break free.
Check.
He's just going to try to blitz me out. Can't say I blame him with the amount of time I have. So if rook d7, I still have knight f6. He's going after that a-pawn. Okay, let's play here. I want to check on g3 if he takes on a4. King there, okay. All right, I got to go for some activity with 1 minute on my clock. He might be able to take on a4, but I'm going to try knight e4 then. And try to kind of corner his king a bit. Thing is, I don't see any checkmates, though. Like, rook g3 is not a mate threat yet. All right, so he's trying to pin me. I think I should probably move my king. Let's do that. Bishop c6. Move doesn't do much that I'm planning. Yeah, I'm in pretty big trouble right here. Just don't see a lot of stuff I can play. Yeah, and I have no time. I guess I'll just do this and see what he does with the rook. I have 20 seconds left, though. Rook
Time warning.
c7. All right, let's go after that bishop on e5, see what we can do with my 17 seconds remaining.
Check.
Oh boy, bishop e8 is coming next move. That's going to be mate. All right, I guess I'm resigning. Yeah, if king f7, there's bishop e8. And if king g8, there's bishop g6 followed by checkmate. That was really odd. Like, he played very quick, obviously. He used less than 6 minutes for 51 moves. And extremely well, kept up the pressure. Let's go back and see. Let's analyze it. So Scandinavian. And I played this bishop g4 line. This is the main move. So this was all theory for the first portion of this game. This has all been seen before. I have a tournament game with the same line. So right here, white either castles queenside or they play bishop d3. Those are the two moves that are typically played. The bishop is better on d3 because if it goes to c4, it's blunted by these pawns that I've set up on e6 and f7. So on d3, it enjoys more freedom and could potentially support a knight e4 move later. But castling queenside is also fine. Black has to be careful in these castling queenside Scandinavians where white does that. And then knight b1. So white played this move right away. It almost looked like they had anticipated bishop b4. Knight e4 is the move that I've seen before. Take, take, and then queen d5 is how black reacts to this and forces an endgame. So I did something similar in the game, queen d5, but white showed no hesitation in adopting this structure, so taking on the doubled f-pawns. I was speculating whether queen g3 would be a problem, and I was thinking castles or maybe even playing g6. I think castles would be okay, although I was somewhat wary of allowing c4 attacking my queen. I think if white were to play bishop h6, then knight h5 should be fine, attacking the queen and also defending g7. So this was one possible line, but instead white allowed the capture to happen on f3, which black should be pretty pleased with. This structure isn't like all one-way traffic, as you saw in the game. Like white did utilize the g file, plus they get some use of the e4 square. That square is protected by a pawn, so they do have a traditional positional weakness, the doubled isolated f-pawns, but they get some advantages from this as well. So rook g1 hitting the pawn on g7, g6. Yeah, now they played bishop h6, which is irritating because it stops me from castling. I just played knight bd7, knight out to c3, bishop f8. I think right around here I started using too much time. But to be honest, this whole game was strange from a time management perspective because I think white spent very little time on moves that turned out to be pretty strong, and I wonder how they figured them out so quickly. But bishop f8, I'm looking to swap the bishops because that would remove a lot of the danger to the dark squares in my position. As you can see, after that trade is made, the engine starts to prefer black because I have all these pawns set up on light squares, and the dark square weaknesses that are left behind are not significant because white doesn't have a dark square bishop anymore. So it's in white's best interest to retain the bishop. And he immediately played bishop d2. He took 7 seconds on that move. That move is counterintuitive to me because d2 blocks the rook. The rook is not assisting in defending the d-pawn. I would prioritize bishop g5, bishop f4, bishop e3 in my calculations, but white immediately played bishop d2. So I castled. This move could be a mistake because as you saw, my king had issues on c8, and especially when white was able to organize knight e4 with bishop f4 and the knight potentially coming into d6, that created many headaches for my position. So bishop g7 is better according to the engine, and maybe castling short. Yeah, I like that plan better. I think that's a better way of handling the position. I don't have to commit myself to castling long, and castle short. It's not like this open g-file is going to amount to anything for white. As I said before, the queens are off the board. The chance of a direct attack against the king working out is not very high. So castling, probably a dubious decision by me. King b1. I went bishop e7. Not sure king b1 is like necessary for white, but it's probably not so bad either. Bishop e7, and now knight e4. So this move presents a problem because if ever I take the knight, I'm just helping white to repair that pawn structure. They no longer have double isolated f-pawns, and they have a pawn duo in the center controlling a lot of territory. The only way I would do this is if I could go and attack one of them, or both of them, like in this case, knight f6, attacking the pawn on e4, and the other pawn is under attack by the rook. But I didn't like this line because white could play e5, and they have time to save this d-pawn. Because the knight is under attack, it's going to have to move again. And if something like knight e4, bishop e3, and this knight is running out of potential retreat squares. So I'm skeptical of any knight takes e4 decision unless it leads to some tangible benefit. But it's possible that the knight on e4 in conjunction with bishop f4 will prove annoying enough that I might have to make that move to avert the threat of knight d6. I tried to play around knight d6 in the game, and it didn't turn out so well. So we'll see. So I played h6 to rule out knight g5. I didn't want the knight hopping in and attacking that pawn on f7. Also stops bishop g5 too. The downside is that the pawn will have to be defended by my rook. So here white played bishop f4. I played knight h5, attacking the bishop. Now I was already down to 5 minutes and 53 seconds, so yeah, my time management was not spectacular. It left something to be desired in this stage of the game after the queens have been exchanged. But I think I found some good moves. Yeah, here, knight df6, so guarding the d6 square. I thought it was possible after knight h5 that white could play knight d6 or bishop d6.
Check.
I was ready to play this position with 2 knights versus 2 bishops. If I can keep the position closed enough, black's pawn structure is better. Admittedly, though, it's going to be hard to tame those 2 bishops. The computer thinks black is maybe slightly for choice. The position's probably close to equal, though. If bishop d6, I think I was just going to play rook he8 and defend the bishop on e7. Note that I would not want to capture on d6 because of the fork on f7 that would result. So f7 is a tender point in my position. I can never lose sight of that. That's the reason why I played h6 a moment ago. So white just retained the bishop, and I played knight df6, and then bishop e5. So white hasn't even used 2 minutes at this point. And the game is roughly equal. So I played rook he8 to get out of the pin. The computer was just mentioning knight takes e4. I thought about that for a second, but I didn't look much further than bishop takes h8, knight takes f2, and then rook d2. But the engine says sacrifice the knight on h3 because it's going to be lost anyways, attack the rook, and after bishop takes h3, rook takes h8, we have material equality. Black has a minor piece plus 2 pawns, a knight plus 2 pawns, versus white's 2 rooks. But the engine much prefers black, probably because my pawns are all defended, and it likes black's prospects with those pawns, like the 4-1 majority on the king side. And if I can keep the position closed and slowly set those pawns in motion, I have good chances to win. So it did cross my mind that an exchange sacrifice like that might be available at some stage. But when you're in time pressure, you usually tend to play more cautious moves, and you won't make big decisions because you don't want to invest the time to calculate them, and you don't want to go out on a limb and be wrong potentially and have it backfire. So I just played the safer move, rook he8. Maybe rook hg8 is also possible, but I thought it was unlikely that something would happen on the g file, whereas at least now my rook is a bit towards the center. So white played c3. Yeah, again, like a 3-second move, c3. I mean, it's a good move, but it's almost like white just was rapid firing these moves without any particular thought, but they happen to be good. And you can see the engine likes c3, just a stabilizing move. Because white doesn't want to initiate trades on f6. Like if something like this happened, this is a dream scenario for black. I've traded pieces. I've got rid of the offending knight plus bishop combo. I'm hitting the pawn on d4. It is an opposite color bishop ending, but white has many more weaknesses than I do. I still have virtually only one weakness, that pawn on f7, which white can't even attack. And white's got all these pawns that could be subject to attack in the future, especially that pawn on d4. If c3, I can almost play just like e5, because the rook on d1 is undefended. I guess white might have some counterattack. But if you're white, you would never want to do this, trade too many pieces when your pawn structure is this bad. White's relying on their dynamic potential and their ability to tie me down and utilize their space advantage. So c3, and here I ran away with the knight, knight d5. That looks decent. My knight's not doing anything on f6, and since I've already said that I don't want to play knight takes e4 unless it led to some clear benefit, I think moving it away and trying to maneuver into f4 is good. So here white played king c2. Yeah, again, a quick decision. The position is kind of slowed down a little bit. I mean, the engine is not even recommending anything profound. It likes king c2. So knight df4, attacking the pawn on h3. And this move really surprised me, h4. So they have 12:57 here, and they have 12:44 after that move is played. So that's a 13-second move. And when I saw that, I just thought that was a blunder. I was like, why would you put your pawn on an undefended square? It's perfectly safe on h3 where the bishop defends it. Maybe I can't play bishop takes h4 right away because of rook g4 stuff, but the speed with which white made that committal decision, that kind of bothers me. So what happens if bishop takes h4? Because I didn't take this because I saw rook g4 would attack both these pieces. Oh, I can play g5. I didn't see g5. That entombs my bishop over here, but it defends this knight. And then white can retreat the rook to g1. And I can't take this pawn because the knight is defending it. If f5, knight d6 check is still happening. Okay. Maybe, was that the reason I didn't take on h4? Maybe it was just because of knight d6 directly. I think it was, actually. And I'd have to sacrifice the exchange. But then again, this is an exchange sacrifice similar to the one I mentioned a few moves ago, where black might consider giving up the rook to get a minor piece plus 2 pawns because the position is so closed. Yeah, here again you see the engine likes black. Yeah, if I had more time to calculate, I would have looked at bishop takes h4 in more depth, and I'd be focusing on, can white punish me with rook g4 or knight d6? And tentatively, it seems like black is okay here. If white plays knight d6 now, take, it's probably similar. Yeah, I grab the pawn on f2. This rook is awkwardly placed. Maybe f5 is coming. Yeah, this could be good for black. So h4, I played rook g8. Here white played bishop c4. Rook g8 was just driven by the motivation to play f5. And I didn't... Was it to play f5? Yeah, I think it was. I didn't want my pawn on g6 to be weak, although that knight on f4 is defending. So if anything, rook g8 is like an overprotection move. Yeah, it also gets out of the way of some knight d6 stuff. Like if knight d6 is played in the future, it won't fork my king and my rook, although that's probably a minor concern. This also is probably just not the best move, rook g8. It was just a practical decision. So bishop c4. And here I played b6. This move presented a problem because the pawn on h4 is still hanging, but I still have to reckon with the rook g4 or the knight d6 move. What else did I think about playing here? f5. Yeah, I want to play f5 too to chase away this knight, but then white gets in knight c5, and this bishop on c4 will prove useful in attacking the newly created weakness on e6. If take, white takes the initiative, because this knight can no longer move anywhere due to that, and I have no dark square bishop to gather the pawn on h4. The engine clearly prefers white here. So that's why I played b6. The plan was to play f5 when knight c5 was not possible. So the computer thinks this position is still roughly equal, and maybe even slightly to black's benefit. It's not really finding any good moves for white. The two moves it suggested, it said rook a1 at first, which is a complete computer move. That's pretty ridiculous. Then it said rook h1. Now it's saying bishop b3, or kind of going back and forth. Rook h1 or bishop b3. White played more aggressively rook g4, which also might be okay. Yeah, now the engine likes it. Rook g4. It's a forcing move. It attacks my knight. Bishop takes f4 is the threat. So I was quickly trying to work out if f5 was possible, but I didn't think it was, because after rook takes f4, or maybe I was even looking at bishop takes f4, I can't recall. But basically white's going to take on e6 once that knight is eliminated. And yeah, like say I take here, take check, king moves. I thought even just grabbing here would lead to a white advantage, but there might even be something better than that. Let's go with the computer line. So f5, it says play rook takes f4 instead. And then knight takes f4, bishop takes f4. And if I take e4, take here, king b7. Yeah, I think this is the line I saw in the game. Then he takes on e4 at the end. And white is up, what, 2 pawns? If I take here, they can maybe even take on h6. Yeah, 2 pawns and should be close to winning for white. Take f2. I get one of the pawns back. Rook f1. Yeah, not to black's benefit, though, to simplify and lose material like this. And rook g4 was played so fast. That's another 6-second move. It's almost like white just doesn't even care that f5 can be played. I mean, how do you calculate that in 6 seconds? Very suspicious. So rook g4, I play the knight back to d5, which appears to be the best move. So now the threat of f5 is renewed.
Check.
So they gave a check on a6. I do have d7 available, fortunately, so that's not mate. Yeah, and now c4, and here white started coming with the pawns. Knight c7. Yeah, and check. I didn't see this coming, knight c5. It's kind of hard to anticipate from a few moves back. Like when I played knight d5, that white would be getting in knight c5 by force coming up, but that seems to be the case. Check. My only move is king d7, and then c4. I guess I could play knight f6 here, maybe? Nah, but I'm probably running into rook f4 issues.
Check.
Take. And if I take with the knight, I assume rook f4, right? And if this knight moves, then he's going to take on f7. So bishop takes instead. Bishop h2. It's not winning material for white, but there's still some pressure. Position's roughly equal. Still quite complicated, I would say. I mean, white's time advantage is almost worth like a full piece or something in this position. That's an exaggeration, but you know, white has a 4-to-1 time advantage right now. So I played knight c7, attacking this bishop, and then they hit me with knight c5. 7 seconds spent on that move.
Check.
And it's a good one. So now white is trying to rip open the d-file. So I took with a pawn.
Check.
And this is around the time I sensed that I was going to lose this game. Just the way, the flow of the game, how quickly white's been playing, and how many decisions and tough decisions I've been forced to make. And the position is opening up for the bishops. This is prime, fertile territory for me to make a tactical mistake and lose. But I think I played well. King e8. So now the rooks are opposing each other, and if rook takes d8, I can take with the bishop and defend my knight. Even that might be playable for white. Bishop e7 attacking here, because I'm so tied down. But white played the better move. Bishop takes c7. I took d1. King takes. I grabbed c5, so I get my pawn back, because I had actually lost a pawn in that transaction. King e2, defending the f-pawn. f5. Hitting the rook. Comes back. And for the rest of the game, I had a lot of issues untangling my pieces and dealing with these bishops that are sitting on the queen side. So I'm under 3 minutes now. Bishop d4 would be better. Attacking the pawn on b2. Maybe the bishop can act as a buffer as well if the rook comes to d1. Yeah, that looks like an improvement. I wasn't even sure at the time if f5 was a good move, because in some respects that actually pushes the rook to a better position. On g4, it does have free reign along the 4th rank, but it's not going to come to d4 with my bishop here. f4 is off limits because of the knight. e4 doesn't do a whole lot. So maybe f5 is just a mistake. Yeah, the engine says king e7 is better. So I played f5, rook g1, bishop back here. Yeah, that's potentially a big mistake. Bishop d4 looks a lot more attractive now that I analyze this. So bishop e7. I kept thinking white would be fearful of me taking the h-pawn, but that never proved to be the case. Yeah, b4 looks good. Bishop b7 looks good. I played king here, hoping for bishop takes c6, rook c8, skewering the two bishops. But that didn't happen. White played the superior rook d1. So they're going to let this pawn sit here because these bishops control so much territory. The queen side is completely off limits to me. I can't move my rook over there as long as those two bishops are sitting there. And that plays into white's growing advantage because unless I'm able to activate my 4 versus 3 majority or win something on the king side, white is pressing. And they're pressing pretty hard in this position because they have a 3 versus 2 on the queen side. And the c-pawn is going to be in danger as well. So hence I played c5, trying to get it off an attack square. Rook d7, knight f6. I can't allow that rook to sit on the 7th rank. Bishop d6 was a threat as well, using the pin. Rook d3, so white slightly improved their rook. Like now maybe they can go rook b3. Here I played the knight back to h5. I was kind of at a loss of what to do. At this point, I definitely would have taken a draw if they had played rook d7. I just would have played knight f6 and tried to claim a draw by repetition. But f4 was played. Yeah, another 15-second move. And a good one. Engine's top choice. a5, hoping for take so I can go rook b8. Oh, also, knight takes f4 check. Forking the king and rook would be nice. So I'm trying to fight back a little bit on the queen side, but it's not working out too well. King e3, defending f4. a4. Yep, bishop e5, best move. Very cramping. The bishop is well placed on this square. I tried to break free with g5 because I don't think I can ever grab this h4 pawn. If I do, then rook d7 is played, and if I bring the bishop back, bishop d6, let's say I defend, they can take this pawn. This pawn is a long ways from queening, and I'm facing a 3 versus 2, and I'm just so tied down as well. So that's what really kills me, the fact that I can't even take that pawn on h4. If I can't take h4, I have nothing to show for my play. Still, though, I'm kind of amazed that the engine is giving me a fighting chance. So that means I played decently from here. And up till this point, too.
Check.
So take, f4 was played. Here I played the bishop back to e7. Bishop c6 hitting the pawn on a4. Now I wanted to try to threaten knight into g4 with the fork. White played king f3, sidestepping that. Yeah, it looks like a king move is called for right now. The engine's kind of going back and forth between king e2, king d2. King f3. I tried to invade. Rook h8 might be slightly better, maybe trying to threaten rook h3. I have a minute left at this point. Bishop takes a4. I went knight e4, maybe knight g4, trying to take that dark square bishop, provided some chances of saving the game. Knight e4 was just a last-ditch attempt to like weave a mating net or set up rook g3, or possibly, I thought about rook f1, and then the king moves here, here, and then rook f2 check. But without the inclusion of my dark square bishop, which is now pinned after rook d7, I think I'm going down in flames. I don't think I have anything. Yeah, I played king f8 because rook g3, b2 is always defended by this bishop. You can really see the long-term strength of the bishops. It looks like white can just kind of skirt away from these checks. Rook f2, king g1, and then my rook is unemployed. It can't take that pawn on b2. It can't take f4. It can't go to c2 because the bishop attacks here. So there's no targets. I never have time for knight d2 attacking c4 because that will allow bishop d6 or my rook might be hanging. Yeah, I get the sense that after knight e4, I'm probably losing. Maybe knight g4, looking to get into an opposite color bishop ending, allows some chances for survival, but I think knight e4 is the end of the road for me. So I played king f8, bishop c6 was played. Here I was attacking the rook, again offering a chance to go into a opposite color bishop endgame, but of course white should not do this. So they played rook c7, knight g4.
Check.
And that was it after rook c8. Okay. Well, if you've got this far in the video, you can probably sense what I'm about to say next, and I've been dancing around the issue for a while because I want to give people a fair shake, but 100% this guy used an engine in this game. No doubt in my mind. No one can play this well that fast. Even for a super GM, this would be quite a feat to play this fast and accurately. The position was not incredibly tactical for much of the game, but there were enough tactics present, and white made such confident and consistently good decisions that I have absolutely no qualms about saying this player was 100% using an engine. Hate to say it, it just happens in the standard pool. I think I played a pretty good game, but as you saw, once the game got tactical and my time was running out, like this whole operation with bishop a6, c4, knight c5, white played that in a flash, and a human would have to figure that out and think about that for quite a while to come up with that sequence. Let's just for fun take a look at their history. Yeah, also, they've been playing so many games, and they're just at their peak rating right now. Like this is not a record that I would be scared about if I just saw their stats. But yeah, actually, Tony is probably giving me a link to the Leech S. Tony watches my games sometimes. Like, look at my record in the 15-minute pool. I have 173 wins, 16 losses. So I lose on occasion, but it's pretty rare. And this player has a much worse win-to-loss ratio, still heavily in favor of the wins, but they've lost a lot of games. And they just played that strong and quickly against someone who's rated in the high 2400s just a moment ago. Let's just see his history. Yeah. This is just exactly what you'd expect, right? For 5 minute, he's right around 2000. So, I mean, this player is not bad. There's no doubt about that. 5 minute, he is about 500 points lower rated than me, 400, let's call it. And 15 minute, he's winning every game. He hasn't dropped a game yet. And I'm pretty sure if I plug this in the Leech S engine, it's going to say that virtually every move was an engine match. He's probably doing it in a slightly clever way because you could see that he wasn't matching 100% of the moves, but he was consistently matching, and he never made a mistake. Like, there was not a move he made that ever dropped the evaluation in black's favor. So this is just a cheater, plain and simple. But the game was interesting, and I hope you guys enjoyed it nonetheless. And I'll be curious to hear what you guys have to say. So thanks for watching, guys. Bye.